Welcome back, everybody, for episode 3 of Beers and Boss Battles. Today we have a great discussion. We're going to be talking about a couple really cool things. One, the best enemies from each video game series. We'll all be picking one, and we're going to try our best at the end of this to find one villain we feel is the most defining for a series. Number 2, the evolution of Xbox as we know it, what we knew, what we know now, and what's to come. Number 3, the next generation of consoles and what do we plan on doing. Also, how is the coronavirus affecting the entertainment industry as we know it, and how do we think that's going to look moving forward? Today, obviously, as always, you have me, Troy, you got Rob here, and we're joined today by Greg and Sanjay, and let's get right into it. I'm interested to hear what you have to say, Sanj. What do you think is the defining enemy for you? What do you think that is for your series?
Well, I think it would have to be Metroid, and not just being the name of the actual series itself. Metroid as a villain takes up more as a threat than any other boss in the game. Every single game's main story had to revolve around the threat of another boss owning these Metroids, or the threat that the Metroids pose on the galaxy. So in general, like the whole game is made up of like crazy bosses, but what really makes it all crazy is that the Metroid, the enemy itself, pretty much is like the main threat of all these games. So all these games really can't exist without this one enemy. And even as an enemy in the game, like their goal is to wear you out, drain your energy, and like, just take your life force. When you actually battle them, they lash onto your head, and you have to jump repeatedly by mashing a button. So essentially, the player itself is getting worn out trying to defeat these things. So when you're having to face like 4 of them and they can only take damage from being frozen, it's kind of worse than a boss. Like there's only sections of the game towards the end that will have like 4 of them at a time. But even those sections, it's like you would much rather fight a boss than have to fight these. So, and then the evolution of like the sub-bosses and bosses in the Metroid series, like the genus itself is great. But the enemy itself is always the main threat. And then even in Metroid Fusion, which is the last game chronologically, they bring back the Metroids after being extinct. So that continues the story. So pretty much the story can't exist without this enemy.
So when you were looking at that picture, can you pull that back up, that screen you had on there?
Yeah, that's actually a good point I forgot to bring up. So this picture over here, this is like the different stages of life and different lives that the Metroids can be. And this was actually meant to replicate the 5 stages of life in the Alien movies of the Xenomorphs. So like there's like the alien, like there's the Metroid Queen, and then there's like these are like what face huggers would be in the Alien series, and then you have like chest bursters and all that. A lot of like the actual Metroid games itself is based on the Alien movies, like Samus being like Sigourney Weaver because they're both female and they survive. Ridley being like the Alien Queen itself. All these like references are like just, it shows you how like the smaller life spawns can really be like the worst threat in the entire game.
Yeah, it's dope. I mean, that's I didn't even know that, honestly. I had no idea that was even had any relevance to Alien at all. I had no idea.
I actually saw it on an article on the web, and that's actually how I pieced together. Like I never noticed it by playing games.
Yeah, that's it's funny that you say that though too, that it's like almost better to have a boss than it is to face multiple versions or multiple amounts of that enemy, because there's a lot of situations where I feel like specifically iconic type enemies usually in big groups can be like super difficult to deal with, whereas opposed to having that one-on-one with the boss is almost easier than facing a lot of annoying enemies. And I mean, I've only had a very small amount of time playing Metroid but from the times that I have played it, they are really, really annoying. So
yeah, it's like the worst thing. And also too, they block your point of view. So you can't, in the first person games, like the Metroid Prime series, you can't see when they're on your face. So that poses all types of problems. Like,
yeah, that's one thing I'm like really looking forward to Metroid Prime 4. Like I'm really hoping that comes out sooner than later, because that's a game I definitely want to get into. I mean, like I said, I've barely carved out any time in my life to ever really get into the Metroid series, and I know how good it is. people revere it as one of like the best games of all time. But I definitely Metroid Prime 4 is something I want to get into for sure.
Yeah, and I think even moving down our conversation, like our topics for later, like I think in terms of like next gen gaming, like I'll definitely bring it up again. But yeah, I can't wait because the release of that game has been postponed so much. It's like they might just drop it on whatever they do next. Honestly.
Mm.
Did they announce it like
They
officially, or is
announced
it
it
rumored?
2 years ago officially. No
Oh,
E3
okay.
trailer, nothing. Like they just been
Oh.
quiet about it, and then E3 is like pretty much canceled this year. You know, it's
Yeah.
going to be online, so they're definitely just going to pocket it like they did Breath of Wild, and then just port it to the
They'll
next.
do the Nintendo Directs, right? That's where they usually announce a lot of their big stuff too now. So
Yeah, but
maybe
now
we'll
it's
hear it
like
there.
see how everything's going. It's just like DLCs. Like I don't think they're gonna announce any big games like for a long time.
Yeah, I agree.
Greg, Greg? What's your enemy?
My enemy's probably zombies. So like the zombies from like basically World at War going forward.
Mm.
You know, it's kind of evolved. So like it was a census of you know, you had to kill the zombies, and then from World at War, and then from World at War into Black Ops, the zombies kind of evolved. You know,
Different
like
types
what
of
was
zombies,
it? It
too.
was exactly. So like in Black Ops when it released their own kind of like little zombie packs, and then it released the old ones, and then they came out with some new ones. So like in Shangri-La, they had the fire zombie that like once you killed it, it would explode.
Mm.
So that was like difficult within itself. And then as time progressed and went on, it kind of went to like advanced warfare with the mech suits, and then like jumping at you, and then the blue ones would like explode right after you would kill them too, kind of like similar to the ones in Shangri-La in Black Ops. And then it just kind of kept evolving. You know, it kind of made things more difficult as you progressed in the levels, even though they're not really technically a main boss. They are like someone to face throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
So and
also,
then
oh no, I was gonna say also they helped like create a lot of the fan following for Call of Duty.
Oh, definitely.
Like that has its own thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like even like when they first released it for World at War, everybody was hyped. You know, it was a different concept. Like they weren't really expecting that. Most people just bought it for the gameplay, and then it just kind of moved on to like this is fucking dope. Like this is awesome. And then when Black Ops came out, Black Ops 2, 3, 4, Advanced Warfare, like all those kind of zombie games, it kind of seemed like people were just buying it for zombies, not for multiplayer, not for like the campaign. It was just mainly for zombies.
Yeah, but it's a good though. I mean that, like I said, I mean creating that fan base in something that really was just an addition to a game that was already good. I mean, World at War, the multiplayer and campaign were already phenomenal, and then you have that, and that really like set the tone for everything. Like you said, like you have Black Ops 2, and then you have or Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3 and 4, and then you have Advanced Warfare, and they really continued that trend because, like you said, I mean, you have so much success in that already. Like there's so many people that like it, that vibe with it. So
yeah, and especially since like besides the zombies too, like they had the dogs too, like the zombie dogs. And then in Derise they would like, I think at level 20 the zombies and dogs would be like spawning together. So besides you having to face the zombies, you had to face the zombie dogs too, which was like a problem within itself. Exactly.
yeah.
Like
Well, what did you guys think? Like, I prefer the zombies from that era to the newer ones. Like, I've played zombies in all the last, like, whatever, 3-4 games, and I think they were better, man. In the I felt like it was more fun back then because it wasn't as complicated. Now they're all like puzzles, and they add so many different elements that it's still fun. But like, I almost prefer the days you guys are talking about. Like, those were the days of zombies that I like absolutely loved.
I mean, like, to be completely honest, I definitely I definitely agree with you. During those ages, like it was more simple because it was literally just them spawning from the ground, spawning
Or you
from
buy a
windows.
couple perks or whatever, right? Like it wasn't
Exactly.
crazy popular. It wasn't crazy complicated at that point.
I mean, so for the first three maps, it was actually pretty complicated just because of the simple fact that they didn't have perks. Like that
Mm.
first map where it's just you in the room, all you had was the box. Literally,
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
you in that rundown asylum, like asylum, whatever it's
Bunker or
called.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bunker. You're right. It was a bunker that like it was run down. All you had was to open the first door, and then bam, you had the box, and that's all you had. And then going towards like Shangri-La and this other map, I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but that's when they started introducing perks. And then the main thing was when they introduced Rise. That was the first time they introduced the Pack-a-Punch. You can upgrade your weapons.
Yeah.
It helped you survive longer in the game. But
Even the
then
money
like
finding, the lore.
exactly. But
Mm.
I mean, I do agree with you that it was more simple, but I kind of liked that complicated factor of like introducing other zombies that were more difficult. Like Advanced Warfare, even though a lot of people kind of crapped on it just because like, they're like, oh, why are they introducing like the mech suit into zombies? They made it more difficult. Like I kind of don't like this aspect. It was fun for me. Like I
Mm.
enjoyed it. It was something more difficult and complicated. You couldn't survive as long. Um, you had to really rely on your teammates to be able to pick you up and like progress through the levels. Like when Advanced Warfare first came out, that was me and Troy's game. We played every single time.
I think
We
that's the only one I haven't played. On
oh,
So
this
good.
it's
on these
so
newer
much fun.
systems, I didn't play it.
Like
I
we
played
would
Ghosts and all the other ones.
Yeah, Ghost was a good one too, but Ghost had the aliens, so it was kind of different.
Yeah.
But going on to the topic of zombies, it was something that like me and Troy enjoyed.
Mm.
Sanj played with us, Kyle played with us. It was up to the point where me and Troy already had Burger Town mastered out for the Easter egg. We completed it in like 15-30 minutes because we just had it like, all right, yo,
Down to a
do the
science.
valves, do this, do that, like
Yeah.
go forward. By like level 20 we already had everything done and set.
Yeah. No, it's
But
true.
zombies is definitely my like my villain, my boss.
What about you, Rob?
Um, I think if I'm gonna try to just come up with something right now, I'm gonna go with Elites from Halo because what I like about Elites from Halo is there's a bunch of different types. And what's kind of cool that I'm trying to remember was that I think that was always in the series is that like let's say they had some grunts with them, like literally those grunts would be fearsome, they'd be confident, and then the second that elite got taken out, they would get scared and run away. So I always thought
Yeah.
that was really cool. But the elites are cool because they're formidable enemies, but they're not incredibly hard to fight most of the time. But they had so many different variety of them, and like you felt like I like how you have to get their armor down. It's not like you just kill them and they drop dead. It's kind of like Master Chief, the Spartans in Halo. They have armor, and your armor's got to go down before you get hurt. It was the same thing with the elites. So I thought that was really cool. The weapons they had, the plasma swords, that eventually in Halo 2 you could use plasma swords. And I kind of liked it as the games went on, like Halo 3, they introduced the brutes. So you fought some elites, but you also fought, what is popped up on my screen? I don't know what that was. But in Halo 3, they introduced the brutes. So you fought elites and brutes, but now they kind of put the emphasis more on the brutes in Halo 3. And then kind of at the end of Halo 3, you're kind of like allies with the elites. So now you're no longer fighting them. So going into like Halo 4, I'm losing track. In Halo 4, you're fighting the robots. You're fighting kind of like a new enemy in there. But then actually, even before then, they had Halo Reach, which was a prequel. And then the elites in that game were incredibly hard. Like I played all the probably Halo 1 through 5 and Reach included on the hardest difficulty, Legendary. And oh my God, man, the elites in that, they would dodge. They know exactly when to dodge, when to fire. They were really formidable. So I'm going to go with the elites. I always thought they were really cool.
It's also too cool that like when you think about the elites and like you said, having that alliance later on down the line and not
Yeah.
having them as enemies anymore, that that kind of makes them as a whole so much more than they ever would have been, because if it's like in any series, I mean, if something stays as an enemy, unless it's like the most fun thing to fight and the best battle, usually it kind of stops there, and that's the extent of what that thing will ever be. But then with the elites, like you said, you have like the Covenant, and then they join you, and then suddenly it's not even about fighting them anymore. But then when you
Yeah.
do fight them, like you said, you can't help but notice, like especially if you're playing on a harder difficulty, how good they are, and how like, and it is a fun
Yeah.
battle. You
Good
get
AI.
some level of challenge out of fighting these enemies. It's not just I go in and I destroy them, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, like even in Halo 2, I remember that there was it was part of one of the missions where you had to fight two elites, and they were completely cloaked out. They were invisible, and I think one of them had the plasma sword, and the other one would just. I don't remember if both of them had the plasma sword or not, but I
Mm.
definitely remember one of them having them, and it was just difficult. Like I remember dying so many times on that mission
They had
and
cloaked
having to
ones,
restart.
jetpack ones. Yeah, they have a good variety of them.
well, that's what I like though too, because then you can, like I said, I mean, even beyond just making that part of the story and like having that alliance, it's just cool being able to see an enemy that can be so different. So being able to be so much more than it originally was, and just having, okay, I fight you, I maybe just break your shield, I kill your health, and then that's kind of the end of it.
I kind of
Yeah.
actually like the concept of the elites too, because like Rob was saying, like they had the shield like Master Chief did, like the Spartans did. Like you had to break that shield first for in order to kill them. Like
Now you got to try to
that
get
was
that
the whole
headshot.
concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the difficult enemy, good story behind them. That's always
That's
like,
another good point. I should have touched on that more. Is yeah, with the covenant and everything, and them kind of breaking away from the covenant when they realized they were being lied to by the prophets. Whereas a lot of the other races just went along with the covenant still. But the elites were
Yeah.
smart enough to realize that the prophets were wrong, and they're like, okay, we're with you guys now. Which, from a story element, was really cool. It gave that race a lot of character and intelligence. It made them very interesting.
yeah, and having that personality in something that is just an enemy is like, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's just having it become something more. And that for me, especially when it's something as iconic as it is, because I feel like if you were to say enemy from Halo, usually it's, for me, is either a grunt or an elite. That's usually the first two things I think of. I mean, yeah, you could think of the Flood, you could think of brutes, you could think of a lot of things. You could think of those little
Yeah.
I don't remember what they were called. They were like the pterodactyl looking things, and they'd have the shield.
Jackals.
Jackals.
Yeah, that was it.
Yes. And so like
They'd always be
there's a lot of
sniping or their little shields. Yeah.
so annoying, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's that. Like I said, I mean, having an enemy that could be more, and when you think of how iconic they are and how different they are in so many different situations. Also, like you said, having them story wise break away, and then just kind of portraying this knowledge, and that they are beings with personalities. They're not just mindless monsters. I think was really cool, because it gives you more identification with the kind of enemy you're actually fighting. So that's really cool, man. No,
I just wanted one more thing before we move on. And the other thing I wasn't thinking of, Halo 2, you're playing as an elite. Half of the game, pretty much, is the
I
Arbiter.
didn't think that.
You know, so I don't know why I forgot about that, but yeah, you literally play as one. And I remember being young, and I'm like, I want to kill aliens. The Covenant are bad. I don't want to play as one. So I was like upset when I first started playing, but then by the end of the game, you realize like you're fighting these heretics, as they call them. So you're never fighting humans in the game. But that's when slowly the Arbiter realized that they're being lied to. So you actually get to play as one. So it was really cool in that aspect too. I can't believe I kind of totally left that part out and forgot as well. But I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah. I think for my enemy, I'm gonna go with the Deku from Zelda. So that kind of goes along that same line, right? So with the Deku, originally, if we're talking original Zelda games, were like 8-bit, 32-bit graphic Zelda games, where the Dekus are literally just these tiny enemies that pop out of the ground and shoot seeds at you, and you had to block with your shield, or deflect with your sword. they really turned into so much more than they ever were prior. So originally they were just that, and they were just these stupid little mindless enemies that would bother you essentially. And then it turned into that, which is like this giant race, essentially, this actual like family of people, a tribe almost. And it's just really cool. I mean, and it really helped shape the series because they ended up becoming not just enemies, but also the store vendors for Majora's Mask. They ended up, they're actually store vendors as well in Ocarina of Time. They ended up becoming someone you played as in Majora's Mask as well. That's the first thing that you were morphed into. And so that was really cool. And then you kind of get this backstory of what's going on there, and that they're not, yet again, kind of this similar to that whole Elite thing where they're not just mindless monsters. They're actual things with personalities, and there's a story behind them, and they have, and I feel anytime you can kind of get a perspective on that and it becomes something more than just, okay, I fight these things and I kill them and whatever, and you never think much more about it. I think that's always like a huge thing for me. That's super cool. But I'm gonna kind of break away here. So just to move into that next topic, I know I mentioned we're going to talk about the evolution of Xbox. I only felt it's right. Greg had brought it up to me. So, Greg, you could kick this off. What do you think? Like what we're looking at now, what we were looking at, and kind of where do you think this is going, especially now that we know Xbox One X Series is really right on the cusp of happening. So,
I mean, Xbox for me, I've always been an Xbox fan since day one. I still have my original Xbox right there. I have my 360 and I have my Xbox One. So I've been a fan since day one. I've always loved the Xbox just for the simple fact that it was one of those systems that had 4 controllers. You know, it came out with Halo, which was one of the most popular games of all time in my eyes. From how the system looks itself, from what I'm looking at right now, it hasn't really, I kind of feel like it hasn't really changed much in terms of the sizing of the console itself, but the graphics have definitely advanced way way beyond from the original. I actually played it. I played my original Xbox last night once we hopped off. It's evolved into something that's just, you know, there for the people, kind of in a sense of just like the gameplay has been changed. I kind of like the fact that like since day one you've always been able to play with 4 people, not like other consoles that like you had to get like some adapter piece. Like for the PlayStation 2 when it first released, you had to get an adapter piece to have 4 players. Off the bat, the Xbox had 4 players. You know, the controllers have changed throughout the time as well. You know, it went from wired to wireless.
Also super bulky. Like back then, those controllers were super thick, and then I feel like they kind of noticed. They were like, "All right, this isn't the design we want." They kind of scaled that down a little bit.
Like, just give me a second.
Yeah. I would say if you look at that original Xbox, what it was going for was kind of trying to have the best graphics at the time, besides PC, obviously. I think they were trying to bring over some of the reasons that like people like PC, like online gaming, good graphics. They had a lot of good first-party games, obviously like Halo and stuff like that. But I think part of it, too, was like games would run better on it. Like when you played Splinter Cell, even the original Splinter Cell, like it almost looked like the PC version on the Xbox. Like it looked great. And then if you go down the line to like Chaos Theory, like that game looked so good on just a regular Xbox. It was insane. So they were really good with that stuff. So,
I mean,
plus
like,
the controller was really good, too.
I mean, like, dude, from the original controller to now, like what we play now, like this is completely different. The sizing is different. Like, look at this. This is bulkier than this.
The weird white and black buttons, whatever those were called.
Exactly.
Whatever those were.
And like, don't get me wrong. Like the holding to it always, it's, even though it was a bulkier controller, it still felt comfortable in your hands. Like you have movement and access to everything. But
triggers were always good.
Yeah,
especially compared to the other systems.
They have the cartridge reader or something on the top.
Yeah. So like you had the cartridges in the top right there.
Oh, that was like a memory card, right, or
Yeah,
something. Kind of like the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast had something like that
Yeah.
too, right?
yeah, and like kind of just this evolving to this, it just feels better. Like it's slimmer. You don't have like the weight to it too. Like I'm not gonna lie, comparing the weight to this feels way lighter, and I like this way better. Like it just feels comfortable in your hands. Like you
Yeah,
can
I feel the
move
same way. I
perfectly
feel like
fine.
playing with the Xbox One X controller, for me, that's probably the most comfortable fit. So actually, real quick, I'm interested to hear this. So Sanj, obviously for you, you've been more of a Sony guy for a really long time. That, by the way, is a beautiful control. I love the Elite. I've broken them though, so I will not buy another
Me
one.
too. Me too.
But so Sanjay, so it's like somebody who kind of, I don't know. I mean, granted, you've had the Xboxes and you've played them, sure, but you are fairly I guess, less exposed to the Xbox as opposed to Sony. What are you like? What are your thoughts on kind of how it's been and now? And do you think that the company maybe is going in the right direction? Do you think that there's things that you would personally change as somebody from more of an outside point of view? Do you have like, what do you think about it?
So I originally played the Xbox a lot at my uncle's house. Me and my cousins and brothers and shit would play Halo, and that was such a unique experience for us, just to like have a different like main console. Because Nintendo was always a little bit behind Sony, so to have a different console that like had the same approach as like Sony was really cool. And Xbox is really known for their LAN parties, having like 30 people tournaments in like one room and stuff, which I thought was really cool. But then I feel like when they made such a jump with the 360, I initially never had a 360 and didn't like it for a long time. But you know what? I would say the accessibility of gameplay of like going to a lot of different people's houses and playing either FIFA or Call of Duty or, I think also to the start of the Xbox party. I mean, I think it's unarguably anyone could say Xbox is the best online gaming console by far. It has probably the best service and best community out there compared to, and when you talk core gaming, like yeah, more people are on PC. Everyone knows that, but like in terms of the console, like Xbox is really like when you're talking shooter games, like that's really where the core competitive field is. There are people here and there that are nice on Sony and stuff, but I feel like online gaming, like what I'm trying to get to is like Xbox has done a really good job of doing the one thing they do so well, and that's connecting gamers and having that accessibility. And I feel like now with like the Xbox One and then the new Xbox coming out, they've really cut. Like I can say in the past, I can say initial release, I can say for me the PS4 was miles ahead of the Xbox One. But I will say like over time, like I will like and seeing you play it and like having friends that played it and like having one myself, like it really has like kept up. Like it really is there with Sony. It really graphic wise, it has everything you want. It's easy, like I love the accessibility of the windows personally coming into the game. I love the layout. Everything's so nice. I think, and Xbox like picking up so many big third parties is like massive. Like that's something they never really had in the past, and like now it's just like that EA Sports and everything. Like you name it. Like Xbox pretty much has it. Like their download content's great. I think they're going in the right direction. I think the one thing they got to like really have for the next gen is graphics. I think Sony is really like, they have a different type of technology in the circle graphics as opposed to pixelation. So I feel like they need to like maybe put more time into like getting maybe even better than Sony or like exactly there. But I think besides graphics, I think they're doing everything right. I think the company is going in the right direction. The only other thing I would say is first parties, because like a lot of like the best games on Xbox that people play are third party or cross platform now. I think go back to the basics. So you started out first party, get back to that. I feel like a lot of the Halo community is kind of phased out. I don't feel like a lot of people don't play Halo as much anymore. So I feel like if you could get that community back, like make a Halo battle royale, and people would be on it. Like,
No, I agree 100%.
Pretty
I
sick.
think that's so true.
That'd be pretty sick, a Halo Battle Royale.
everyone
I
would
would
be
be
crazy.
on that all day, dude.
They rumored it. It's
Oh,
being
man.
rumored. I
Really?
guess we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying for Halo Infinity,
Yeah.
the new one for the Xbox Series X, they might actually implement a battle royale for it.
So actually, let me talk about that real quick because that was something that came to my mind, and I kind of want to hear what you all have to say here on this. And do you think it's for the better or do you think it's for the worse? Because in a way, I can see both sides, and I'll explain what I'm saying in a second. So it seems to me that ever since Fortnite popped on the scene, and I mean really popped on the scene, that's when they introduced the Battle Royale and Ninja started catching the wind and everybody was like crazy about Fortnite. I mean, everybody played Fortnite. Ever since then, every main multiplayer shooter game or anything alike has done their best to recreate that and include a Battle Royale. So what I'm asking is, for companies now moving forward, Halo, even for instance, now they're rumoring, okay, we're going to have a battle royale. And for me, that I love it, right? But I do see the other side of it where are games becoming too contingent now on having a battle royale? Is that a good thing? Or is that kind of taking away from what the game really is? Because if you were to look back, Halo, although it was multiplayer, I mean, the campaign really made that game. The explanation of to the enemies and where Master Chief was and who Master Chief was and what he was capable of doing, that really put a lot of the emphasis on the character, and people, I think, gravitated towards that. People really like that. What do you guys think? Do you think it's kind of pushing games too hard to make that now, or what do you think?
I think they have to keep up because the content's too good of a battle royale, and it's the next 10 years of gaming pretty much. So if you can't keep up with that formula in a shooter, it's kind of no one really. I hate to say it because I'm someone who's into a game for a story. Like I'm big single player story invested game. But honestly, I just a lot of people don't give a crap about story anymore. It's just about getting online with the most amount of people and having your teams and doing stuff. And now all these companies are integrating towards that. You have to steal from Fortnite's success because it's too much success. There's too much money there. There's too much opportunity. So I feel it kind of sucks that we're losing out on old games, but it is good because it's you have to take from that market and make it different, or else you can't adapt. And that's just Fortnite just has too much traction towards it. Without Apex, without Call of Duty, taking away from that spotlight, they would still be the number. They still probably are the number one most played game, but they still would have the number one attention in terms of games right now.
I mean, you're definitely right. Fortnite kind of launched this whole battle royale thing off, and it went from Fortnite to PUBG to Apex to Blackout to Warzone to all these different battle royales, and we play this all the time, so it's a fun concept. They're definitely growing off of that. I kind of still feel like there's many years left of that battle royale kind of flowing through, like we were just talking about, Halo's even about to hop on the bandwagon of a battle royale.
So that's what I'm saying. So do you think that's it's good and it's fun? That's
Yeah.
I really, that is truly how I feel. I think it's fun. I think it's a great thing, and I think it's an awesome experience. Obviously, it wouldn't be as successful as it is as a game mode if it wasn't meant to be, right? So if it was just
Right.
a here and there kind of thing, once and done, not every game would replicate it. Not every game would make a point to have a battle royale. But I'm saying, do you think, as a whole, does it take away from games? Does it make it too focused on that as opposed to the story, or maybe even just the base multiplayer? Because I can guarantee you that for Call of Duty, it's probably a lot more people playing Warzone than there is right now playing multiplayer. So
see, I don't think so though, because I think story mode has been phasing out for really long now. So I feel because online shooters took the spotlight of oh, let's just have a game for a one-time run. People are why am I spending $60 and then I beat the game and I do post-game stuff and there's nothing left to do. People are I'd much rather be on an online game where I could rank up and just keep playing endlessly. And then now, the Battle Royale took that concept and just ran with it and just expanded it to every proportion possible. So now it's if you didn't it's just evolution over time, I think. And then the next thing is gonna phase out Battle Royale, and then it'll just keep happening. And I don't think it's bad because I think it was already happening. I think story mode games and first player was really phasing out, and we were on this greater scene of online.
Definitely. I kind of feel I don't know, to be completely honest, the last game that I've ever played for story mode was probably Modern Warfare 2. That was the last time I ever played a campaign. Ever since then, it's just been multiplayer. I literally buy the Call of Duties just to play multiplayer. I don't play the campaign. I don't touch it unless it has like multiplayer or zombies on it. I don't really care for the campaign. Like it kind of feels like story modes have like Sandra was saying have like died out a long time ago. Like it's just not fun anymore.
What I would say is it depends on who you are and what you're into, because there's still tons of single player like Doom just came out, Doom Eternal, which is a big single player game for the most part. Like, so people love single player. I think it just depends on who you are. Like, look at the last Call of Duty before this. Like, it didn't even have a story mode. It was just pretty much multiplayer, and everyone still ran out and bought it. So I think it depends on who you are, and you got to market to your audience.
Sorry.
No, do your thing, man.
But I think if you look at Xbox and you look at their exclusives, whether it's Gears of War, whether it's Halo, they've always put a big emphasis on having that story mode, having co-op in the story mode, not just like a single player God of War, like Last of Us, crazy single player experience. It was always about co-op.
If it's The Last of Us, that game in itself, it is a story. Like it is a story mode. There is no multiplayer there. I
think there was multiplayer, but like no one really played it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, very popular.
But like it all depends on the game too. Like I was saying, like if it's a story mode based game, of course you're gonna buy it to play that in general. But like stuff that contains like sub games, like modern, like the new Modern Warfare, it has a campaign, it has a multiplayer, and it has Warzone. Most people are more likely to play the multiplayer or Warzone than to even touch or look at the campaign.
I will say, though, I did play the campaign, and I actually thought it was very good. I think it was the best Call of Duty campaign probably since like the original Modern Warfare. It was very solid.
I heard that too from a lot of people. I just never
play it, man. It's good.
I'm gonna definitely get into it at some point. I started it and then I like fell off right away. Because it's like everybody's always playing Warzone or something, so I'm like, oh, I gotta play Warzone. But so kind of touching back on this evolution thing, because I know that was more or less the topic here. It's ironic that we went in this direction, but I have to say it. I think Xbox has really changed so much, right? Because when you look at the original Xbox, it supported a lot of local multiplayer. That was a big thing, even LAN parties, right? I mean, essentially that is local multiplayer, more or less. I mean, you might be on different screens and doing different things, but you're playing in the same. Yeah, that's
an interesting way to stack them up. Oh man, living life on the edge over there.
A little bit.
But no, you think about like the Xbox, and you think about what it originally started as, and it copied and mirrored a lot of the same things that Nintendo and Sony were going for, and that there was co-op games, and you could hang out with a bunch of your friends and play a game. I mean, there's games like Fusion Frenzy, they're literally just local multiplayer games. And
I remember that.
And so, but it's funny now, it's really diverged so much from that, and it's become something totally different where it's not about that anymore at all. It more or less doesn't support anything local multiplayer. And as Sanjay had brought up, a lot of the games that are popular on Xbox are popular on other systems, and for that reason, they're not meant to be played in the same room or the same setting. They're meant to be played. I play at my house, you play at yours. We play together still, but we just have different screens. But a big thing for me, a reason why I love gaming so much is the aspect of being able to bring people together. Now, granted, you have a group and community that exists like ourselves, and we're part of that can sit on the phone or sit on the computer and talk about video games a ton and still connect in that way. But I do like that it brings people together, and not just through the online interface. I mean, something more personal where I can go to your house, we can. And I mean, I think that's why I'm so drawn to a lot of the Nintendo games and a lot of their first party titles, because they all 100%. Mostly offer, I mean, outside of Zelda really, offer a local multiplayer format. And so for me, that's really big. And just seeing how Xbox really just stripped itself of that and now becomes this like one entity thing, which is I'm about multiplayer. I'm about the online experience, and that's what we are. That is exactly what we cater to. We're about that. So I think it's I don't get me wrong. I'm a huge multiplayer guy. I am. But as I said, I think a big
I will say I think there is split screen in the new Gears. Halo, I don't think there was split screen, but the new Gears does have split screen.
No,
like okay, so maybe in a little bit, but
No, Halo had split screen since Halo 2.
No, but I mean Halo 5, the latest Halo.
Okay.
I don't think it had split screen. I
Well,
could be wrong.
but either way, I'm just saying a lot of what is popular on Xbox, a lot of what people are going to play, whether that's Call of Duty, that's Fortnite, whatever it is not about split screen. It's not about being with your friends and playing on the same screen and enjoying an experience together. It's we're going to enjoy this experience together, but we're going to be in completely different situations. We're going to be in different houses or different. And so it's just when we talk about the evolution of Xbox, I think now moving forward, I would like to see them kind of try to retreat back to that a little bit. I'm going to say this now. I'm not saying that I want to see them make their focus putting people in the same room. I don't want to see that. I think they've done a great job with what they've done already, which is why I'm such a huge Xbox fan. But I would like to see them kind of work their way back into having games, whether that's through third party or something that they offer themselves, having something that requires people to be in the same room and have some local multiplayer, actually bring people together, especially in a time right now where, and I'm not going to try to hold off as much as I can until we get to that last part. But especially now with everything that's going on and kind of having everybody so separated, I think it's nice to have something that could bring people together. So I'd like to see that happen in the future. But I'm very much looking forward to what the new Xbox X Series has to offer. It looks right now great. Obviously they put a ton of time into configuring that thing to be the best operating model that they can possibly offer, and it just at least appears that way. And I'm super stoked for it, and I'm sure that a lot of the titles they have to offer are going to be great. So I'm going to kind of work our way into that next part of the conversation. And Rob, I know you were saying to me this topic will be more about kind of looking into that next generation, seeing what it is exactly we're looking forward to. What do you think your plans are going to be now moving into this next gen?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in a weird spot because I've always been one of those guys that kind of buys everything up until recently, which I actually, very recently, I do now have everything again. But so I started off in the early days Nintendo. So I started off in the original Nintendo, then Super Nintendo, then Game Boy Color and N64, and I was a Nintendo boy. Then the Xbox came out, and I was like, oh, okay. And like, don't get me wrong, there were definitely some PlayStation games that I liked, but I was always kind of Nintendo versus Sony, so I always felt Nintendo. And then when the Xbox came out and Halo came out, that's when I jumped on Xbox, and I didn't fall away from Nintendo because I had the GameCube. I loved Animal Crossing. I loved Wind Waker. There were some amazing, I actually think the GameCube was a great system.
I think it was phenomenal. One of the best of all time. By far, by just titles alone, you're definitely right.
But what happened with me with the Xbox is I absolutely fell in love with it. And the cooperative campaigns, like with Halo and stuff like that, and then playing these games like Splinter Cell Chaos Theory with this insane graphics and stuff, Project Gotham Racing at the time, the crazy graphics in these games, like I started getting a little more into Xbox. Then when you fast forward and you had the 360 come out, and it came out a year ahead of the Wii and the PlayStation 3, so they had a year head start. And on top of it, I was already going in that direction. And not only did they give us great games that were competing with PC games graphically, I think in the first year we had the Gears of War 1, which was, for years, was the best looking game I'd ever seen in my life, let alone great story, amazing gameplay. But we also had games like Oblivion that came out that, like, if you weren't playing that on the PC, you weren't playing it anywhere else, and it looked amazing. Like, I remember the first time I walked out of that prison in Oblivion, I was just blown away on my 360. I remember you could pull up your guide, so you could kind of multitask. You could play music while you were playing your games. Xbox Live, obviously, they upgraded it. It was just such a big jump. And then the Wii came out, and the whole motion control thing seemed interesting, but I kind of felt like, as a core Nintendo fan, I felt like the Wii was kind of weak. And I know they had great, like Super Mario Galaxy, I know they had really good exclusives as well, but they kind of lost me a little bit, and I went a little more Xbox 360. Later on down the line, I did get a PS3, I think when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out. So I played that quite a bit, but I was still a little more Xbox. And then when this Xbox One came out, they messed up their delivery. I mean, it was $500 out the gate. It was more than the PS4. They made you buy the Kinect, which people hated. At their press conference when they unveiled it, they were saying you had to be online at all times. So if you bought a game and you're offline, you can't play it. they messed up their messaging before the system even came out, and that's what they paid the price for. Long story short, that's what they paid the price for a couple of years. But I think now when you look at the Xbox with Game Pass, some good exclusives, I think it's in a really good place. And going forward, I'm kind of in this weird spot where I love my Xbox. I've kind of for years been buying the Xboxes right when they come out. But I'm also at this point where now Microsoft is making this move where they're saying, hey, all these exclusives that used to just be on the Xbox, now they're coming out on the PC. So like the new Halo is going to be on the PC. Gears of War 5 that just came out was on the PC day one. Like there's all these exclusive games that would force me to buy an Xbox that now I could get on the PC. And PC prices have kind of come down a little bit. So I'm in this weird spot where I'm like, do I want to make the jump over to PC gaming because I know keyboard and mouse is superior for competitive gaming? Or I want to stick with the simplicity of a system because, you buy that Xbox and you're set, for 5 to 6 years, you're set, it's good. It's going to work for the most part. You're going to have great games on it. So I'm in this weird spot where I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I'm kind of in between. Do I want a PC or do I want to get an Xbox? I don't really know.
So it's funny. It's funny you say that because for me, I'm kind of in the same boat, right? I mean, I know I'm going to buy the Xbox. That is one thing I'm definitely sure of. I just, for whatever reason, that's just what I want to do. But there is definitely a part of me that's strongly considered making the move to PC, and really because PC offers so much of what every other system has to offer. And a lot of the greatest titles are not first party, they're third party. They work with every thing like PCs, PS4, PS5, Xbox One. So I've definitely strongly considered that. I think it's funny too because the only part of me that really is inclined to get a system is, and I've always felt this way, especially when it comes to that comparison that we make when we talk about PC gaming versus the systems. For me, I've always thrived on the ability to have people around me that obviously enjoy and are in mutual feeling about video games and stuff, granted, but them being able to participate in what I'm doing. So if they come over and I'm playing Call of Duty, I don't have to feel like, well, it's just me playing Call of Duty and then they're kind of just in the background sitting and hanging out. No, like I can pass the controller off. People can get involved too. Or maybe I do have some kind of game that supports local multiplayer and we can do something together. I had talked about that a little bit before, but, it's not like that with PC. With PC, it's so personalized. I mean, everything from the setup you have to the keybinds, everything is so personalized in that manner. So it's hard. You can't really invite your boy over, and unless has the same setup as you, he's not really going to, and more likely than not, he's not going to want to do that. And so, and that's kind of what deters me in a way. I mean, would I mind having a PC set up for myself and maybe getting involved? Sure. But I'm also so stuck in my ways with that, where I've loved Xbox. I'm in the same boat. I mean, I've thankfully have had the ability to have all the systems along the way. I've had the PS3, I've had the Xbox One, or Xbox 360, the GameCube, the Wii, the Wii U, the whatever. I've had it all. And it's just no matter how you look at it, the console and having that hooked up to a TV and just being able to say, hey, man, you want to play a game? That's been big for me. So that's kind of where I feel the same. I do. There's a little bit of confliction there. I'm like, oh, well, do I want to have a PC and do I want to just have that for myself? And will that take away from what I'm doing on console? And then if I do have a console, I don't know. There's a lot to be thought about. But yeah, I'm excited to see because I think like all technology, especially in the gaming world, it's so rapidly evolving and we never know what's to come. And I think that level of bewilderment is really what captivates us the most when we see something that we really like or something that draws us in. But I mean, there's a level of excitement, but there's definitely a level of uncertainty in me right now, kind of moving forward. So I hear you on that.
I mean, also the fact that besides having that system where like PC, like you were saying, that it's suitable for you and you can't really pass it off to your friends. It's also just the fact that of who do you know mostly plays PC? It's mostly a console. Like you won't be able to like be like, oh, let me jump online and play COD with Greg and Rob while I'm on my PC.
Well, yes, because it's not most. I mean, granted, like okay, so COD maybe. Yes, that's cross-platform, thankfully, right? So I could be on the PC, I could play with you, but yes, I do. I get that. I feel the same way. And that's what I was kind of saying. Like, there's a level of I don't know. There's not this connectiveness anymore because, like you said, most people don't play PC. There's a select few people I know that do, and they're probably great gamers.
Well,
but
here's one aspect
yeah.
we haven't touched on though. You could hook up a regular Xbox One controller to your PC and play on your PC.
That is very true, actually. Yeah.
And here's the thing too, like if you think about it, like if you're a Sony fan, you have to buy the PlayStation 5 because that's where you're getting those exclusive games. Xbox literally now, no, like none of the exclusives are on Xbox. You can get them all on the PC. So like I feel like I get it. I think they win either way because either way you're having their product, whether it's on the PC or the Xbox. But I feel almost like it might bite them in the butt a little bit, like having a game like the next Halo come out day one on the PC, because like you're making the incentive to be like, why buy this Xbox when I can get this? Plus I can get all the exclusive games on PC that I can't get on Xbox, like Valorant that's coming out that people are excited about, League of Legends, like World of Warcraft if you're still into that, like Escape from Tarkov, which was a very popular game a couple months ago. But there are a lot of PC exclusives that you can't get on PlayStation or Xbox that now you would be able to get on a PC. And I think Sony's in a good spot in that you're always going to have to buy it for the exclusives. But now Xbox is in a little bit of a weird spot because now they're making them available on PC as well. So it makes it tougher for somebody like me who kind of already wants to get into PC gaming. Like, why invest into both if I can save myself some money and just buy a PC?
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I mean, also, you think about Xbox, right? So they're owned by Microsoft. Now, Microsoft typically is the program that's being run for all PC gaming. I mean, nobody's running. There maybe are very few people who are running or who are PC gaming on a Mac. Most people are running
a smaller number. Yeah.
Most people are running on Windows. So there's that too. So they're still making money, but I do get what it does really take away from what Xbox was doing and the direction that they're moving. Because now, like you said, you're stripping yourself of the incentive. There's no more incentive. If I can buy it on PC with better graphics, with better bit rate, with whatever, or better bandwidth online,
now I got the keyboard and mouse, and now I got all these other games that I can't get on Xbox ever. These PC games.
But you also have to take into consideration your setup because, paying $300-$400 for a system compared to paying $1,000 and up for a really good PC, like you want to have the full-on experience of a PC gaming, you're paying at least $1,000 and up, at least.
Easy. Yeah. That's like starting for
that's fair.
More or less for the basics. I mean, so that's a good point,
Greg.
Greg.
Call it mid-tier, like a mid-tier machine, probably $1,000.
Yeah.
Like Alienware. Alienware is at least $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. As I was saying, I mean, when you think about the longevity of something, with consoles, they have great longevity because you make that initial investment and past buying the online capability and buying the titles themselves and maybe DLCs that you want to get yourself, you're making one installment. It's never, I have to buy this new graphics card. I have to buy this. I have to buy that. No, you buy the system and the system's set for years. Whereas with a PC, there's always new hardware coming out. So there's always something that you could buy to improve your capability. And I don't know that I would even want that on the forefront of my brain, always thinking I could possibly spend more money to get myself better. I don't know. I mean, with the console,
well,
I think
here's the thing too: the developers, when they make these games, they're optimizing them for the Xbox, PlayStation. PC, they're not really particularly optimizing. Like, it's like, what do you have and how does it run, and make sure you have your drivers updated for all your different stuff. And sometimes you might even get screwed because you can't find the driver or you're having a problem. So the optimization there for console gaming is nice because the developers kind of have to go out of their way to make that game run well on that particular machine. Whereas if you buy a desktop and you have all these different components, like you may run into problems with drivers and different things down the line. At least that's what I hear from a lot of PC gamers.
Okay.
Yeah, that and the fact that like once you buy the parts too, like you have to install them. So that means you have to take apart your either your full on fledged modem, take it apart and add the parts to it, or you have to take down your laptop and take out this certain piece to put in a new processor.
Most laptops you can't even. Most you can't. Most laptops, they don't even let you. Everything's soldered onto the board, like the RAM and everything. Most laptops.
That makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to go.
A joke.
You have to go desktop, which is another thing that I don't think we're even really thinking of here, which is accessibility, right? So with the desktop, I mean, it's stationary. You're not going to pick up your fucking desktop and bring it to your boy's house. It's not going to happen. You might take your Xbox and bring it to your boy's house and hook up and have like a.
Greg's like, I do it.
Yeah, I do it too. So
we have LAN parties all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be considered there. I do think there's obviously a lot to look forward to. But it definitely is in a weird spot right now. And I think for me personally, although I do know I'm going to buy the new Xbox, I would like to see kind of where it goes from there and what they have to offer. If they decide to kind of go back on what they're saying now and maybe offer something more exclusive, I think that would be the incentive for other buyers. But I do think we need to let it kind of play itself out, and we'll see from there. Now I'm just gonna kind of like move this. I wanted to ask now. So, being our last topic, what do you guys think? Like currently, right? We're in a quarantine or quarantine type state everywhere, and there's so much going on with this coronavirus thing, and people are trying to be safe, and there's obviously huge limitations on everything, and mainly the entertainment industry, because you can't really bring people together anymore. What are your guys' thoughts on currently how is that affecting us as gamers, as people who are into entertainment, whether that be movies or whatever? And where do you think this will have a lasting effect on the people? Do you think this is going to be something that gets better over time? Also, do you think now, with I know this is a loaded question, but do you think with the kind of time that you're being offered and what's available to you, do you think this has helped you in any type of way? You have more time on your hands, so you're able to get into more games that you probably wouldn't have. Do you think you've gotten better at games? I mean, what is your take on the whole thing? Greg, I'll start with you, I guess. What do you think?
I mean, to be completely honest, even with the quarantine, like I haven't really been able to game as much with you guys, which kind of really, really sucks. But it's just because of we're essential workers, so we have to go to work. And the fact that I'm still doing online schooling, so like it kind of, even though we're stuck in quarantine and I have to be home, or whenever I have to work, I have to go out to work. I haven't been able to game as much with you guys, and it's kind of deterred how I'm playing video games now. Like I kind of have next to no time to play, but like when I do get that time to play with you guys, it's always a great time.
So, but do you think granted, right, you have like very limited time, you have a tough schedule to try to work around, to try to fit time in for yourself and stuff with whatever's going on in your life. Do you think it's positively affected the gaming community? Do you think it's helped?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it's positively affected the gaming community, because like the people that aren't essential workers and that are actually have to be like stuck at home, they have way more time to play games. Like you can play Warzone, you could play Fortnite, you can go into exploring other games. Like with Nintendo, you have more time to play Smash Bros. You have more time to do so much more other stuff with gaming that you didn't have before this, because before this you had to wake up early in the morning to start getting ready to work, shower, get dressed, commute from wherever you need to commute from, to then go to work 8 hours if you work for 8 hours, and then maybe if you come back from work you might have some time to game or do whatever it is. Like you have much more time to actually enjoy gaming and explore other games that you couldn't really do before the quarantine until now.
Mhm. No, it's true. I mean, there's definitely more time, I think, for the people that aren't in that position where they have to go to work. I mean, that's true. Um, there's so much more availability to get into gaming. I mean, and the reason I guess I asked that question is because you got to think with E3 canceled. I mean, granted, it'll be online, but it's just not the same. It's an expose for a reason. You want people to come out. You want people to be engaged.
Right.
So I think that's where the question comes in. I mean, do you, Rob, I think that's a good point for you, right? Because I mean, you've been to a lot of expos, you've seen a lot of things, and do you think on, and let's maybe talk on the developer side. Do you think that affects them positively, negatively? What do you think?
I just went for the record. I went to Penny Arcade Expo, PAX East. I went there in Boston this year. That was the first one I've actually been to,
Nice.
gaming convention. But it was a good time. It was actually right before this whole thing started too. Like they were already talking about the coronavirus. They were talking about shutting everything down, but it was like probably one of the last big events before it shut down. But I would say for developers, it's probably good and bad, because good because probably all these video game companies are probably making more money right now because people are definitely spending more time and spending more money on games, I would assume, because they're home. But it's probably bad too, because with all these things in place with essential workers and stuff, I don't even know how that works with developers. Like, do they have to cut their team sizes down? Do they have to physically change the workspace so that they accommodate these rules that are in place? So it may negatively affect them in those ways, like delaying games and different things. I don't actually know how it's going to affect them long term. It's probably slowing the development down, I would guess, of the video games.
Well, that's why I was asking,
guess.
because you have the workplace, and for whatever, I mean, granted, I'm going to assume they can't go to work, so that has to affect something. I mean,
So,
I don't know what it is.
So from what I've heard from gaming developers, like from what I've seen, whoever's working on the software, so the software engineers, what they do since they're working from home is that they work on their certain section for that game, and then they have to send it to the head chief, and then they have to look over the coding and then send it back and to the software engineers, and they have to go and fix whatever bugs or that's going on in the game. And it's kind of delaying things, like Rob was saying, because of the fact that they're now, instead of being in one facility where you can just go to the person and be like, oh, like this is software coding, like do you see any bugs? Oh, it's this and this. All right, I can fix it right away. You have to now send the whole coding to another person, wait for them to look through everything, and then you have to wait for them to send it back to you.
Well, so here's another thing, right? Now, a lot of companies, what they'll do is, and it's the best thing to do, right? So you work on projects, you have projects in place, and let's not even say projects, let's say finished, completed things. Their product, their whatever, whether that's a video game, whether it's a movie, a lot of times they have these things already completed, and then they wait. They have it on back, and then they just, when the time arises and they think it's an appropriate thing to do, they'll drop it and they'll release it to the public. Now, you got to think with movies, entertainment, video games, that kind of thing. They've definitely done a good job at pacing themselves. I think with everything going on, knowing that there's going to be huge restrictions on what they can do now currently, because they're not going to be able to put anything in the works, especially when we talk about movies and entertainment. You're really not going to be able to gather people on a movie set. It's just not going to happen. Right. But you talk about gaming, for instance. Now you say, okay, I can send the code to this guy, and I'm going to wait for his response, whatever. I do think that those that bar has really affected us more than we even recognize a lot of times. And so I'll give you a perfect example. Me personally, I've been on Warzone, right? We had a huge discussion about that last time, or the first episode, and we had talked about all these things. And I think something that really fell to the wayside, something we really didn't even discuss, was how poor it seems the connection's been. And usually for a company like Treyarch, they've done or Infinity Ward, they've done an amazing job at being responsible with their servers. Usually when a problem arises, they're very quick about fixing it. It doesn't seem like there's been any quick fixes with this. It seems like this is a reoccurring issue for a lot of us. I mean, myself personally included. I mean, you go online and it's just those kinds of things. I mean, there was Fortnite bugs, for the past 2 weeks where if you went in and you had a disguise on, you opened up one of the locked chests while being under disguise, or if you presented one of the henchmen and it opened up, some of the items that would come out of the chest were locked inside of the box, so you had to break it in order to get that thing. And so even though those are minute things in the grand scheme of what's possible or what should be fixed, I do think that that's something that really kind of correlates with what's happening now. And I think that there is something to be wanted, right? I mean, you want, when you play a game, especially you're talking about something online where the online experience is the game, and then you go online and the online experience is really not what it's shaped out to be, you hope for more or less, sooner than later, you hope for a fix. You hope for something to come out and to make everything right, and I feel like that hasn't happened for a lot of different games in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, my take on it is I can't help but think that this has given developers more time. I think it's taken a lot of pressure off people too, and companies to get things out there. I think that it's given them the headspace that they need to probably really perfect whatever they're working on. And I think that's great, especially in a market that's so saturated with games. And although, like I said, there are things that they have in store ready to rock, and they're just, okay, we're going to wait and we're going to, whatever, we're going to drop it December 2nd. I do think that nobody has that expectation now. Nobody, even as, like I said, the market's super saturated, but I don't think people are expecting anything now. I think people are, so I think for the developer side of it, personally, and I could be completely wrong, I feel like it's taken a lot of the pressure off them. It's given the ability for them to focus on what they're doing, and kind of in that same respect, make people less, I don't know, expectant of what's to come. So,
Yeah, I guess I don't really know. I guess I'd kind of like to do some research maybe and see, like, are developers coming out and saying that it's either hurting them, slowing them down, or is it not a big deal? Like, I wonder, I don't really know. I haven't really looked into it. I would just assume it would probably hurt the flow, like what Greg was talking about earlier. Everything probably takes a little bit longer because you don't have a cohesive unit, all working in one building together. So there's probably some logistical problems that are presented, but they probably are doing their best to deal with it, kind of like everybody is. Everybody's kind of just doing their best right now. I would say someone like Greg, who's got school, he's still an essential worker. He probably doesn't have as much time as someone like me. So me, I have like back to the original question, like I have a crazy amount of time on my hands. So I've been playing all sorts of stuff, and I use Game Pass as well on my Xbox. So like stuff that I wouldn't have went out on my way to buy. I'm like, oh, it's free. I'm not paying any extra for Game Pass right now, so I'll try it out and see if I like it. Like me and my uncle were just playing this game called Streets of Rage, which is pretty much this like old school side-scrolling brawler game, and it's actually pretty dang fun. It's got co-op, and I think it's a game that literally just came out, but it's just released day one on Game Pass. So for me, in my particular case, I have a lot of time, so I've been playing Warzone a crazy amount. I've been putting a ton of time into that. But also I have been playing a bunch of games I probably wouldn't even have played otherwise. So it's been kind of cool for me, right now as a gamer, being able to play all this crazy amount of stuff that normally most people don't have the time to play,
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's something to consider, right? I mean, like you said, I mean, you like Greg said, you have this, Smirnoff Ice. I was actually drinking, I didn't even bother to bring this up, but this is what I'm drinking. It's from Other Half. It's called Space Diamonds. It's an 8.5 ALC by volume. Wow. It's a 1 pint can.
Let's see the art.
So it's really, I don't know if it's like really giving you a great display here. It's kind of like, it's got a bunch of like shapes and stuff. These diamonds that are gridded almost. It's really cool. But this isn't as like capturing in terms of the art. We were talking about this, how a lot of the artwork that they provide for these newer beer companies are just amazing. This one really didn't catch my eye too much, but it was
it's good.
Shout out to my boy Pete. Pete had dropped it off to me, and it was just a gift. He was He was in the area. He dropped it off, but I gotta say, I'm actually really glad I tried it. It was super good, really smooth. It's different though. It's a double IPA. It's dry hopped. But it's really good. It just had a different thing going on. I think a lot different than what I'm used to trying. But I guess just to kind of recap here, I think as a whole, gaming is definitely moving in a great direction. I think even with what's going on right now, there's a lot to look forward to, and hopefully with things kind of reopening and things turning back to normal, we can really have faith that there's something more to see, and that we're going to get that, and when the time's appropriate. I personally, and I think we can all speak that way, don't really know what it's going to look like, but there's some excitement there. Definitely, I'm eager, and I would assume you guys are too. And this is a great talk, man. I'm going to kind of wrap this up. So I just want to say, obviously, thank you to Greg coming by, fucking chatting with us, and even for Sanj. I know he had to get out a little early, but that was awesome. As always, guys, thank you for watching. It means so much to us. Any support, any likes, any comments, any kind of feedback really means a ton. So thank you again, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode of Beers and Boss Battles. Crack one, sit back, and get woke.